Hi, and welcome to number 4. So we're almost there in terms of the 4 habits for designing your life. So number 4. You may or may not remember that this is about a contextual beacon. So let me pull up the slides and let me talk you through. Five habits for designing your life. Number 4. Cover the 3. Superpower of reflection, superpower of dreaming, knowing strengths, you could know your uniqueness. And now we're at crafting your contextual beacon. All right, let's get started. 4th habit. Ooh. Da, 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 da. So firstly, what is a contextual beacon? It is one word that is inspiring for you and instantly recognizable for others that sets out how you want the next 12 months, and basically how you want the next 12 months focus to be. The one-word theme often helps balance out the often conflicting areas of deep focus and opportunity grabbing. So it kind of gives you an opportunity to focus deeply, but also not ignore all of the different things that are kind of around you and be able to sort of take advantage of that. So kind of that macro micro focus. So being able to shift between the two of those things. The work that I'll be talking you through today has been heavily adapted from the work of Dr. Jason Fox. So there he is, matching beautifully with the orange font and titles in there. Worthwhile following everything that he does. It's very off the edge. It's not the traditional sort of stuff, and therefore it's kind of compelling, logical, clear, and actually quite insightful. So worthwhile doing that. So the contextual beacon gives us that deep focus, opportunity grabbing. So how I'll go about getting one, and generally is a one word, and I'll show you how to kind of get there. I'm going to go through this a couple at a time, but what I want to do is I want to sort of focus on a few and just dive into those a little bit. So I've already covered that it needs to be inspiring and easily recognizable. You're basically choosing a bundle of attributes, principles, and behaviors that you want to aspire to in the next 12 months. So you want to make sure that the word reflects that. You also want it to be instantly recognizable because you want to be able to say that word for people to be able to get it, rather than having to explain a whole backstory as to why that's the word. You'll have reasons why that is a word for you, but you don't need to necessarily explain, all of the different pieces associated with it. It should be inspiring. It should give you that butterflies in the stomach feeling that, oh gosh, this is something I'm going to be doing. A little bit of catch in your breath, because that's what it's meant to be. It's meant to kind of inspire you to live your next 12 months in a different way that you live your last 12 months. Resist also choosing your first word. It's probably not very memorable and not very compelling. So look at words around it or near it. If you need to, get a thesaurus out and start to look at the words that kind of associate with that word, or even just brainstorm a few different words and kind of work which ones through by just getting kind of a list of them. Put it aside, come back to it, have another look at it, put it aside, come back to it and have a look at it. I generally find that I get about three to 5 words kind of out of my head onto a piece of paper, and then I leave it for like probably about 2 to 3 weeks, and then find that one of those words, when I go back and look at it, will be kind of the word. I've been doing it for 9 years, so it probably is a quicker process for me than it might be for others. But just, you'll know the word. It'll kind of feel like a real solid clunk, and your energy should change once you know what that word is. You need to elevate it. So it could be that you've chosen a word, you're not quite happy with it. See if you can relate it to an archetype, an animal, or a characteristic. Is there something that you really want to sort of match it towards? So is it something like a tiger or an alligator or something like that you can kind of help sort of elevate it? Or is it a type of archetype like a career, like a pioneer or explorer or something like that, or a pirate? Like what is it that sort of all those attributes that kind of help you kind of elevate it? It should always be a positive towards state. So you want to anchor it in the future you want, not what you're trying to get away from. So you want it to be, let me think of a word. So for example, I've heard somebody say their word for the year was boundaries. So that is not necessarily a towards state, a positive towards state. What it might be, less might be around, I'm trying to think of it off the top of my head, so that's always a little bit tricky when you're trying to record a video. It could be, so boundaries might be one that somebody's thinking of, and the opposite to that, what would be the opposite of that? If you had if the boundaries were in place, if the things were happening the way that you were expecting them to, what would that look like? So what would the difference be? So don't know the context of why the person has chosen boundaries, but let's say that the opposite of that is like you want to be calm, or you want to be able to make decisions with clarity. So it could be something around clarity or something like that, or it could just be preserving space for yourself. So being more in tune with who you are. So it could be something along those lines. Obviously, none of those things are one word, but sort of trying to really narrow it down to what is that one word that you're trying to grade. Add an image. So in a book, which for the life of me has jumped out of my head, Brain Rules, the vision trumps every other sense. So it is more likely that you'll remember something that's visual than you'll necessarily remember a word. So you choose an image that helps make it even more compelling, the word that you've chosen, and it'll also help it sink in that little bit more because it gives you that visual cue. The second part of that is make it seen. So set it up in a way that it's a constant reminder. It could be something you put on your notice board. It could be something that you put on your screensaver. And I actually put it on my phone, which probably you can see. There you go. You can see that on my phone. So that every time I unlock my phone, I actually see what that is for this year and kind of helps me focus a little bit on that. So there's some hints and tips. This is really just an example of mine for the last 8 years, and then the 9th year will be on the next page. But it just kind of gives you a little bit of a kind of clue as to the different things you could do, particularly the image component. By adding that image to it, it just really sort of compels it, makes it a little bit easier. So I've got Pioneer, Storm Chaser, Glitter, Animate, Forge, Electrify, Wave Rider, Aurora, and for 2024, Spark. So by creating little sparks within myself, but also with other people that kind of start to ignite, which is very exciting. So knowing your contextual beacon is important because it is surprisingly powerful in helping keep you on track. It is probably one of the things that people find most easy to adopt because it's really simple and it's easy to do. And it also has quite a bit of profound impact associated with it as well. I've also had it for 9 years, so as you can see, so next year will be year 10. So it can't be totally naff because there's no way I would do something 9 times if it was a complete waste of time. And I would actually not even do it if it was only a half waste of time or a quarter waste of time. I like to be very optimal in the things that I do. So it's absolutely there. So it's surprisingly powerful. And what's the worst that could happen is you don't choose the right word. Big deal. It's kind of an easy thing to sort of get going, but you'd be quite surprised at how powerful it is. All right. That was number 4. Can you believe that went so fast? So that's 4. So we've got one more habit to do for next week. And that will be designing your strategic life map. It kind of wraps everything together nicely. So I look forward to talking to you then about the final habit in the 5 habits for designing your life on purpose, or just designing your life, I think. Yes. So we'll be talking about the last habit in the 5 habits of designing your life. Talk to you then.